Well, Justin, I want to welcome you to the show today.
Thank you, Bill. Nice to be here.
Well, I'm really excited to have you on the program. We've known each other for a couple of years, and I know you've taken on some really exciting new opportunities, and we're going to get to those in a moment. But we, super excited about your journey as a CIO and into some of the most innovative opportunities that I've heard of recently. So, I would think it would be great for you just to share with the audience a little bit about, who you work with, what you do now, and then so that people understand kind of where you are today. And then I'd love to just go back to your first job in IT and what that looked like and how you got started.
Sure, I'll try not to bore everyone, Bill, but I'm currently the CIO for Panasonic Energy of North America, based out of Sparks, Nevada. So we are at what everyone knows as the Gigafactory, right? We supply cells to Tesla. So I have the honor of being able to lead the technology division over there, which has been an absolutely fantastic journey. Currently been in that role for 10 months. And prior to that, I was with our automotive division within Panasonic. So that's currently where I am at right now. You asked where I started. Well, as you probably know, and as you know, Bill, and the audience probably picked up, I do have an accent. I'm originally from South Africa. And I started, as an IT manager at our local bottling facility with the Coca-Cola Company way back when. I won't tell you the year, but way back when there. So, from there, kind of progressed through the ranks and came to the US. And, being on the manufacturing side of IT for quite some time now, both on the bottling as well as the head office side, which has given me, I think, a good perspective of technology and how it can work and how it can help our business become more efficient. So that's a very quick, short synopsis of my journey.
That's great. That's great. So in South Africa, you were working for a bottling company. So have you always kind of stayed along the manufacturing side? This wasn't a distribution facility, or was it? But was it primarily manufacturing?
Manufacturing, both on the production. So I've been on both ends, on the production and the distribution side, which has been fantastic. We've done a lot of pretty cool programs and projects, and all of it, as you can imagine, my manufacturing is around efficiencies and leveraging technology to create those efficiencies. So it has definitely changed over the years, that is for sure. But overall, that's what you're driving towards, right?
So what's the change that's happening in manufacturing? I mean, I know just from an outsider perspective and in the innovation community, just kind of broad strokes, what's happening and knowing some folks in that area. But what is the broader trend with U.S. manufacturing and even global manufacturing right now, as far as what was done in the 80s, kind of the offshoring and such in the 90s, like what's happening today? If you could talk about that.
Yeah, sure. I think, from my perspective, back in the 80s and 90s, when we started out, IT and technology in general was just seen as a means to an end, so to speak, right? You had to use it, but no one really understood it and how you could leverage that power. And as we've grown and as new technologies have advanced, we've been able to show significant value. And I think the change in late 90s, early noughts, right, leading into now, I think our business leaders have really brought the IT leaders into their decision making, because they understand the role we can play and how we can create those efficiencies within multiple facets of their functions, particularly supply chain and the manufacturing process itself. So it has been an incredible journey, right? And as we innovate and as new technologies come on board, we're able to sit down with our business partners and show true value. And at the end of the day, Bill, I think that's the key thing for our business, right? It's just showing value.
So as far as are manufacturers right now, Justin, looking at what is the value? Is the value speed to market? Is it because there's choices of where to build a gigafactory, right? I mean, certainly with Elon, we can make some assumptions about that he wants to kind of bring everything and have it tightly controlled and be able to dominate the manufacturing process, because there's not many gigafactories out there. But what is the business value that everybody's looking to achieve
Yeah, I think, from our perspective, I can't talk too much about the Tesla side and that, but from our side, on the Panasonic side, our current Sparks facility is co-inhabited with Tesla. So to your point, that closed-knit supply chain is there, right, which has a tremendous amount of efficiencies, and the technologies we use there, it's quite impressive when you see as our cells come off the line, it gets on an AGV and goes straight to Tesla, right? So it's a very impressive model, and it has definitely created efficiencies. And I think that model, I think everyone's trying to look at that and see how they can piggyback off of that and or expand on that and maybe tweak it a little bit. And it's interesting I can't talk too much on the business side, but the whole supply chain, I think COVID has been a game changer there. And how do we look at that supply chain and bring it into North America? And that's where we as technologists can potentially help them.
Oh, absolutely. So that's okay. So that's it's a lot of forces at play, but essentially the gigafactories that you're going to be building. So you're building one right now. And why don't you tell the audience what a gigafactory is first? Just, we don't want to make the assumption everybody knows what a gigafactory is, and then maybe define it. And by the way, I went to Chat GPT. Yes. And I went to Chat GPT because I know we're going to be talking about AI and ML. And I asked some questions about the Gigafactory, so I can go through the answers. But I'm going to get your answers.
I better not get them wrong, right? No, in essence, a Gigafactory, right, is the term Gigafactory. I believe, and I could be incorrect on this, but I believe it's really just coined as the race to the first gigawatt per hour, right? So in essence, it is a factory in itself, and the term giga is really just that. It was the race to get the gigawatt per hour. So that's where I believe the term gigafactory came. So I don't know if Chat GP is going to correct me on that, but so in essence, what we are is just a large factory, a manufacturing facility, right? And I think it's always impressive to me it's always pretty cool when I see people come in and we take them on a tour of the gigafactory, and just the scale of something like that. It's very impressive to people. Even to us who work there on a daily basis, when you walk around and you look at the scale and the volume of cells coming off these lines, it's tremendous, right? And I think that sets it apart. And the other thing, kind of going back to your previous question, Bo, speed and agility and the way we innovate within the Gigafactory is unlike anything I have personally seen on the manufacturing side, right? We've been here for about 6 years now, but so basically we're a startup, and we continue to think as a startup. We're a 100-year-old company that thinks like a startup, right? And with that comes the speed and agility, and everything we do, timelines, things like that, we cut in half. Sometimes we cut it into quarters, because you have to innovate. There's a lot going on in the industry right now, and failure to innovate will definitely put you at a competitive disadvantage.
How do you do that with a legacy business, though? Did they have to push this project to the side so that the corporate immune system wouldn't take it over?
No, it's interesting, right? So, when you look at the assistance you're getting from the corporate level, I think everyone understands where the future is, right? And for us in particular, we believe the future is in energy, and it is our mission to really go and change the world through cleaner energy, right? And that's really our vision and mission. So, there's a lot of help coming from both internal stakeholders and external stakeholders and government stakeholders. I think the US has realized that this is something we need to look at from a supply chain and an overall manufacturing perspective. And there's programs out there right now, which I believe is going to significantly expedite the startups of gigafactories within North America.
Because they're essentially funded or collaborative funded or tax incentives and things like that?
Yeah, multiple programs like that, which I think people are going to take advantage of. And I believe that you're going to start seeing a lot of investment in North America. Well, you are seeing it already, right? All the investment in manufacturing, which is fantastic.
Well, it's interesting. I envision the manufacturing systems right now similar. When I was getting my black belt in Taekwondo back in my 30s, I was in IT, and there was a guy that I trained with, and he had just sold his business to Raytheon for like $350 million. And I said, well, what did you guys do? And he goes, we disrupted Raytheon. Raytheon was making these closed loop missile defense systems that had they were essentially, you had to buy the whole thing from them, and you had to buy the whole monolith and megalith. And what they did is they just this company created a modular based approach to doing that, so you could decouple different elements, so that the military had more agility within that whole missile system. And I think of the manufacturing in a similar way, that you had these sort of closed systems. And I'd love for you to explain kind of what you've done with, or if you've done that, kind of how you've decoupled that to build some speed and cloud readiness into this.
Yeah, I think those closed systems is not unique to gigafactories. I think we all struggle with that, right? And in particular, when you look at your traditional IT and OT, and how in the past we've kind of siloed the two, for good reasons, right? But I think nowadays, we need to take a step back and reassess that a little bit as we drive towards data-driven insights, and everyone's talking about data, and everyone wants to make decisions very quickly. Those silos between IT and OT have to really be broken down. And I've been fortunate enough to work with some very talented people within Pena right now, where we have broken that down, and we've actually taken our IT and OT divisions and formed a singular division, the technology group itself. And I think by doing that, you create these like fusion teams within the group. And so your speed and agility significantly increases, and your innovation increases, because now you're tying your people, process, and technology together in a much quicker manner than if you had your traditional IT, and then you had a wall, and then you had your OT. So that's one area that we've been focusing on over the last few months, and we're starting to see some significant benefits by closing that down and opening that up. And by doing that, we strongly believe we're going to create a competitive advantage by doing that.
So just to make sure I understand everybody, so you've taken the IT, kind of the core IT functions, that your group there, and then the OT, which would be traditionally the manufacturing systems, correct? The custom built systems, and so basically those groups are now collaboratively working together versus kind of independently making decisions, and that's where you hope to build the speed around.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. It's a very basic example, right? So your typical traditional IT, which everyone knows, like ERP system, for example, whether it's Oracle, SAP, whatever it might be, right? And then you've got your MES system sitting on the OT side, right? And typically those two groups are working in silos, where you really need those foundational elements working together to create the data insights. And then by doing that, now you can put layers of technology on top of that to really extract the data, marry the data, the models, and the information coming from your hardware to make better business decisions, right? And that's kind of what we're driving towards. And that's just a very simple example, but it's an example I'd like to share with you.
So this is what I asked ChatGPT. Okay, I said, what does the ontological layer mean in regards to ML and AI and gigafactories? And so I'm going to give you the answer, and you tell me if it's correct. Okay.
Okay.
The ontological layer refers to the level of abstraction at which knowledge is represented in a system. In the context of ML, machine learning, and AI, for gigafactories, the ontological layer would refer to the way in which the knowledge and information about the factory's operations is represented and organized within the AI system. A well-designed ontological layer would organize the data in a way that makes it easy, understandable, and accessible to the AI algorithms, allowing them to make better decisions and predictions. For example, in a gigafactory, the ontological layer could organize the data into different categories, such as production lines, machines, raw materials, finished goods, etc. This would allow the AI algorithms to easily access and analyze the data related to the specific product lines, machines, and make predictions and recommendations based on that information. It would also allow the AI algorithms to easily identify patterns and correlations between data sets and improve the accuracy of the predictions. So is that correct?
That is very close. Yes.
Okay.
I won't say it's incorrect for sure. The ontology layer and within the Gigafactory itself does just that, right? And it's able to map those business processes in a manner, and the data flows and the models that you currently have and the applications, and bring it all in together to help the AI and ML models. And the cool thing about that, Bill, is by doing that, you take what traditionally used to take months and years, and you do it in days.
Wow.
And it's interesting over the past, I won't share too much, but over the past few months, we've been working with some key partners that have come in, and the outputs we're seeing to the delivery within days has been significant. And these are key use cases within our business that create those efficiencies we were talking about earlier. So it's a very exciting time when, and how you tie that back to your smart factory and your digital journey. So it's a very exciting time. Yeah.
So so I know that you and I had a pre-conversation about this, and I wasn't sure if you could if I could ask specific questions about some of the partners that you're using and selections around that. Is that possible?
Yeah, I can talk about a few partners.
So obviously in the cloud, because you're some manufacturers in the United States are like, oh, it's too hard to get into the cloud, but then there's people like yourself and many others that are just know that this is the future. And so what options are there? I mean, there's Microsoft, there's AWS, and I know you've partnered with AWS, and then there's other organizations like, Palantir and such that have built out a huge success with the defense industry and such, and now they're bringing into to business. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that and how you all went about this journey of finding the right partner.
Yeah, I think it's extremely important to find the right partner, right? And for us, so let me back up a little bit from the cloud perspective, right? And from a manufacturing, from our perspective, we per day we have significant data. I'm talking petabytes of data that gets driven from the Gigafactory, right? So you really have to look at, when you move to a cloud and you start your journey, take a step back, understand your business, understand the data. And most likely what you're going to end up doing is a hybrid model. When people say move everything to the cloud, it's for us, it's just not practical. And I would highly recommend people look at edge technology and cloud and how you can marry that together on your journey. And then when you look at partners, we have a hybrid cloud solution. We don't necessarily sit with one particular partner. And the reason we do that, Bill, is it's all based on use case, right? And how are we helping our business? And sometimes a Microsoft cloud might be better for that situation, and sometimes an AWS cloud. So we really leverage Microsoft and AWS quite significantly. And then you have partners like you mentioned, Palantir, right? When we look at your smart factory, their Foundry solution sitting on top of an AWS, for example. How do you partner the two together, and how do you create those partnerships even with the vendors that you're using? Because most times that we found is you don't have a singular partner, you have multiple partners that have to work together to create these solutions for you.
How do you when you're working with the business, how do you create? There's a lot of complexity in anything, certainly IT related, but in this, there seems to be quite a bit. How do you focus on the 80-20, kind of that Pareto principle, where how do you focus on the 20% that's going to get you 80% of the result? And yeah, because I know you can listen to the business and such, but the data doesn't lie, or even the current data doesn't lie. So how do you focus on the right things so that in this project, you're actually getting the main outcomes that are going to get the biggest benefit?
Yeah, I think that what I mentioned right in the beginning, having a seat at the table, right, is extremely important, right? Understanding your business. If in manufacturing, if you're a technologist and you're just sitting back looking at the screens and researching technology, you're doing something wrong. You need to go on the floor. You need to speak to the operators. You need to speak to the GMs on the floor. You need to truly understand the business and the pain points that they're experiencing. Once you do that, then you can look at the architecture that you need to put in place in order to support them and create more efficiencies within the organization. And only then, once you've got that, then you go look at your partners and say, okay, who can I partner with now that will support these efficiencies that my business is looking for, or these use cases that my business is looking to solve. And by doing that, I feel that you're going to be able to, one, reduce the duplication of efforts that we sometimes have by rework, and you're going to be able to deliver a solution that is fit for the business.
Is there this could be a crazy question, but is there the opportunity to create like an Amazon Amazon, the company, start out with books, and then they're now, the book, they're the Walmart not the Walmart, but they sell everything. Yeah. But they started out with books. And they sort of democratized access to books across. It didn't mean that all the bookstores went away. There's still a bunch, but it certainly disrupted that. Is there a chance within the Gigafactories to become the Amazon type organization for factories, for business that want to stand up a factory and just need access to a factory to do that?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe there's an opportunity there, right? I'm sure smarter people than myself have thought about that, but I do believe there is an opportunity. When I talk to the technology side of it, when you look at an industrial data platform itself, whether you're partnering with a Microsoft, an AWS, a Google, I think there's opportunities there to co-develop and share that with other industries, right? So that democratizing of the IP itself, I think, is definitely an opportunity there.
What about skills within your team? Did you have to rethink? So certainly you can buy skills from vendors and such, and sort of have a managed service relationship from them. But what skills did you come to that you're like, you know what, we just need to have these set in-house, and we need to have them in-house because they're, for whatever reason, they're unique to Panasonic, or they're unique to IP that you just wanted to be able to have? Like, did you ever, is going through this process forced your hand and as far as what skills you must have?
Yeah, I think it's, the number one asset I think we all have is our people, right? And I have been very fortunate to work with some very talented, and I have extremely talented people on my teams right now. But I think there's always that balance, right, between your FTEs that you have in-house and your managed services that you can use bring external expertise in, and you have to, each one of us have to find that balance within the team. It is my opinion that completely outsourcing something, those back in the 90s, and that when we used to do that, those days are long gone. You have to have the subject matter expertise in-house to help our vendor partners develop the software to meet our business needs. So for us, we have multiple FTEs in each one of our functional areas, and they work very closely with our business as well as our vendor partners to ensure that marriage between business outcomes and the technology to support those business outcomes is seamless.
And then the models that are being built, these AI, machine learning algorithms that the AI is going to be able to read, is that what does that look like right now? Is that something that you're just really going to be leveraging kind of prepackaged algorithms that have already been developed? Are you going to have in-house try to innovate within these so that you can create unique value, or is it kind of a combination of both?
Yeah, it's a combination of both, right, Bill? I think our vendor partners come in with these AI and ML algorithms that are out the box, and that they've used in other industries that might be applicable to us. But because we do have some unique aspects of the Gigafactory, we work with them, and this is where that co-development comes in, right? And we have the subject matter expert and say, hey, we might want to change this a little bit, and this is how we do this. And then you develop those AI and ML algorithms, and then from that you get the outputs that you're looking for. So it's a combination of both.
Is there so you're at this point right now, is there and where you are today, is there a unique skill or a unique superpower that you didn't know that you had, but that you had built through the years, either through working with mentors or working with leaders that you had been inspired by, that they kind of gave you the opportunity to be in this position through specific experiences that you've had in the past and such? Like, what do you think that is unique that helps you succeed and thrive in the environment you're in today?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it a superpower or anything, but for me, I believe just being able to sit and communicate to your business leaders and talk to them in a manner that they understand, and then being able to take a step back and really listen, do some active listening with your business to understand what their pain points are, and then being able to articulate how you can, as a technologist, come in and help them solve these issues, right? As you know, Bill, sometimes we kind of get ahead of ourselves and we're like, oh, yes, we can do this. And, if we bring this tool in, it does this. But I think taking a step back and putting it in terms that the business understands, and, because at the end of the day, they have to fund it. And everything nowadays has to be pretty much self-funded, right? So you have to show those ROIs, whether it be through efficiencies or hard ROIs. And being able to communicate that to the business, I think has helped me achieve what I've achieved. And then the second piece to that is really the teams, being able to talk to the teams. And sometimes you come in and, as a new leader, particularly, you want to make some changes that you feel can benefit, and being able to communicate that effectively to the team, to get them on board so the ship is all going in the same direction, I think is extremely important.
Well, is that just a skill unique that you've developed, or were you born with it? Because that's something that people talk about a lot, but how did you develop that skill?
So I truly believe I was very fortunate in the very beginning of my career to do a lot of traveling and meet to many, many countries and work on many different programs with many different cultures. And I think what that forced me to be able to do is look at things from different perspectives, and to truly listen to those different perspectives and take all of that and work together and collaborate on the outcome. And I believe that, that has significantly helped me as I progressed through my career, to really listen and help, whether it be the business or whether it be our people or whether it be the technology organization. I think that is something that has not born with, definitely learned, right?
Well, it's the underappreciated harder part sometimes of the earlier career, and putting those miles in. You never know how those skills play out later in life. And that's great. It's worked out for you. What books have been the biggest impact for you? Or what book has been the biggest impact for you recently, or that you've taken some knowledge from that you could recommend?
Yeah, I mean, there's a book I'm currently reading called The CIO Paradox by Martha Heller, and it's very applicable, particularly in the technology space, because we all have these constraints, or we think we have these constraints about cost versus innovation. And the book really, Martha, through her years, has talked to multiple CIOs and she's got their stories and that. And by reading through these stories, you can kind of get a picture. And there's these common threads of how these leaders have been able to work with their business to overcome that paradox, and many other paradoxes as well, but that's just one of them. And it's very interesting reading, and it's really helped me when I'm busy talking to my business, say, oh, okay, maybe I should think of it this way, and maybe I should articulate it in this manner. So that's a book that I'm reading right now, which is I find very interesting. And then there's also one that you might know, Everybody Wants to Change the World by Ray Wang. It was more on the digital transformation side, sure. And that's a pretty interesting read as well.
Well, that's great. Did as it relates to some mentors that have been the most impactful, has there been a mentor, and it could be a mentor through a book or a podcast or someone that physically you've worked with, has been a mentor that has made a significant impact for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Throughout the years, we all have mentors, and we might change mentors. We might have multiple mentors at the same time, and that's kind of what I had. But I had a mentor, and I won't mention her name, don't embarrass her, but I had a mentor coming up, through the Coca-Cola company, who really showed me the importance of, listening to our business and really focusing on the business and really pushing to have a seat at the table with the business leaders and how to go about doing that, right? And that has made a significant difference for me, because if we do not have a seat at the table as a technologist, we are not able to articulate how we can help. And then we kind of that afterthought that gets put in the back, and just make sure things run and don't break, instead of being able to truly show the business how we can help them through innovation.
When you say the word listen, I'm going to ask you a real practical question. Are you referring to actually taking notes while you're in meetings, and then do you have a process you go through? And this could be even business analysts that are in other meetings for the other business units. Like, I'm curious about how you personally organize the listening, and then how you receive feedback from other units. And then, like, what's that process that you go through to actively listen?
Yeah. So for me, my process is very simple. There's no trick to it, right? Someone told me a while ago to never pass up an opportunity to keep quiet, right? And I really take that to heart when I'm in some of these meetings. And taking notes, obviously, and afterwards coming back. And then when you have some quiet time, I mean, I'm sure a lot of us, either in the morning, we take 5 or 10 minutes to meditate or whatever it might be. And during that time to really replay that meeting, look at your notes, understand where this is coming from, and then taking that back to the team and collaboratively looking at it and say, okay, what do we currently have, or what is out there that could potentially help with this particular situation? So when I say listen, it's truly just doing that. It's as simple as that.
No, I love that. I just, I think I was really curious, about what that meant. And so just reflecting on the meeting afterwards, on your notes, looking for the list, what were the big wins that the business unit said it would have, and that kind of out of the rush and bustle of the day to day in a more quiet time. I also find that listening to the gaps in people in the sentence, when someone ends a sentence, actually listening for the actual pause. That's actually an Eckhart Tolle strategy, and well, not a strategy, but it's more of a tactic to force the brain and the mouth to so you can be quiet. But if you listen to the gaps, it's really difficult to speak because everybody wants to jump into those pauses. And so that's
yeah, no, I completely agree. It's interesting because we are a Japanese company, right? So we have obviously a strong Japanese culture, and that's what it's like, right? You have a sentence, and then there's a pause, and there's a reason for that pause, so everyone can take it in and understand what the speaker is talking about before you just go ahead and. Yeah, in North America, we tend to have a tendency to just jump in and want to answer the question, right? Instead of sitting back and listening. So
yeah, it's a great approach. Well, what were you hoping I would ask that you'd love to, from the conversation topics we've had, what is something that is useful and valuable to everybody that I haven't asked that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think the one thing which I'm surprised you didn't ask about was actually security, right? And kind of how people are thinking about security nowadays. And and the reason why I say that is because with everything going on in the world, whether it be nefarious organizations from a state-sponsored cyber attack, things of that nature, right? People always look at tools, right? What tool can I put in place to help defend us from these type of attacks? And I wanted to share with everyone that from my perspective, from our perspective, we really invest in our people as our number one firewall, right? And the providing them with the tools and knowledge on how to prevent these type of attacks on the business, I think is absolutely critical, because as you know, Bill, most of the attacks coming through are from some phishing campaign or someone's providing elevated access to people. And I think if we focus on our people, whether it be on security or whether it be upskilling them for smart factory or digital transformation, I think the focus on our people sometimes gets overlooked, and we really need to focus on our people and upskill and provide them the opportunities to help us innovate, provide security for our organizations.
Yeah, and you're referring to the education and training that comes right down to the end user level, right? Because
correct.
Yeah, and it's there's no greater investment, and it's actually it's probably the smallest investment that out of all of it that you can make.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Rather have 3,000 people have your back than just a team of like 3, 5, or 10, right?
Right. Yeah.
But it's this is part of the Gigafactory, and part of digitizing a factory and all the elements of it is that now you're on an IP network. You're not in these closed loop systems. Sometimes there's a benefit of having that friction of the closed loop system because you don't have the exposure. But I know those days of even partial exposure keep a lot of factory CIOs up at night. But is that built? Is you're building that from the ground up? So that probably is a much better way to secure a Gigafactory when you have the opportunity to layer in security from the beginning. Has that been the case for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Gigafactory itself was, it's a startup, so it was put together real quick. So we have some opportunities there to take a look at some of those legacy systems and put some protection around that. But as we look to our new facility in Kansas, we have a tremendous opportunity there from the beginning to do some look backs and put the correct architecture in place and ensure that it's safe and secure. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, I only have one last question for you, and it'll be a fun one. But what advice would you give to your 25-year-old self if you had a chance to go back to your 25 self with all of your knowledge that you have now and all the wisdom? Is there anything, and this is not only to yourself, but it could be also to new workers that are coming in, to the environment, because you would be a new worker talking to your 25-year-old self. What words of wisdom would you give from where you are today?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, but very interesting question. I'd have to really give that some thought, but I think off the top of my head, what I would say to myself is, don't rush the journey. Take it in. It is a quite a exciting ride, and sometimes we get ahead of ourselves, right? But I would say to myself, take it in, learn, listen, because everything you're doing today is going to provide the opportunities that you're going to get tomorrow. So that's kind of the advice I'd give myself, my younger self.
That's great. And how, do you think that the role of mentors was big in your journey? Was it important?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important. Myself, I've had some tremendous mentors, and I still do have some tremendous mentors. And I think we all as leaders have a responsibility to give back, right? And I think mentoring is an extremely important part of that. So I encourage everyone, if you're not part of a mentorship program, to get involved. Let's train the leaders of the future, and let's help them as well. And we're ourselves, we're never too old to learn, right? So make sure you have a mentor if you don't have one. It provides a tremendous amount of value.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I think all leaders need to be looking and surround themselves with the 5 people that are not necessarily their peers, but are in front of them a little bit, but they have something to bring to the table, but the others kind of push them along because they still have a lot to go in the journey. Well, I appreciate you, Justin, very much for being on the show today. And is there anything else that you'd like to say before we sign off for today?
No, nothing else, Bill, but thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'll leave everyone with this. And this is very near and dear to me. As technologists, I believe it is our responsibility to push the envelope, to get a seat at the table with our business partners, to help innovation. And let's try to create a cleaner energy environment through technology. So that's what I'd like to share with everyone.
Yeah, I love that. And it's you have a mission-driven organization, which definitely puts gasoline on the fire for sure. And you mentioned several times, not just waiting for the business to give you a seat at the table, but having that goal, and then finding ways to get the seat at the table. So a little bit of a squeaky wheel gets the grease. And so that's great. And that's something that it's a great message for everybody listening. So thank you very much, Justin, and look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. Likewise.